Hey, how's it going? This is Matt with Bastone Guitars. We are going to talk about something that some people might consider a little bit of a touchy subject. We're going to talk about sustain and what I consider to be some sort of myths about it. And I guess I'm going to, the reason we're going to talk about this is because I'm doing a bridge upgrade on the Fender Vintera P bass I have here. And I want to talk about why I'm doing that, because it's something that a lot of people do, and I oftentimes think it's totally unnecessary. That being said, there's some good reasons to do an upgrade on a bridge, and I think I have a couple of them here. But first, let's talk about some of the reasons, things that people say get extra sustain for you that I don't believe necessarily are the case. One of the things is extra mass at the bridge. I don't think that high mass bridges necessarily do anything for sustain. I think sustain just requires a well-made bridge with no points where you're losing vibration, no loose ends. And that's one of the things that, the main reason I'm doing this here. I have this high-tech illustration because here at Bastone Guitars we don't believe in production values, obviously. So here is an up-close look at the two Fender-style bridge saddles. If you will notice what awesome artwork I did here. The top, this is more like what you'd find on a Player Series or something, or any of the more modern ones. This is the vintage style, which is what is on the Vintera. Now, it's basically a threaded saddle, and the string can sit anywhere in these grooves on top. So you can adjust your spacing slightly maybe, but you have to pull your string out of alignment really to do that. So it's not a very practical thing to do. This is one thing I don't like about this, is if you're looking at it right down the barrel of a string, like you are in this upper illustration, you'll see the string is going to sit on top of those grooves, whereas when you have a notch like that, it's got more contact with the saddle. And I've noticed with this style, I feel like I lose a little something at the bridge. It's a little bit less punchy on the lower notes. I feel like I might be bleeding a little bit of vibration out there. So I could have just gone for about 20 bucks and got a Fender bridge for a Player Series type one, just like what's on my Player Series. And I thought, well, if I'm going to upgrade bridges, maybe I should invest in something that corrects other issues with the bridge, other than just how the string sits in the saddle. Here is that bridge in question. And you can see the threaded, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there is no notch for the string. It's just sitting in these little threads along the top. And it looks really cool, and I think there's nothing wrong with it other than you don't get enough contact there. And here's the other thing that I thought, if I'm going to change it, the problem I have with all regular Fender style bridges is as I'm cranking away on my low string, this likes to start to walk away a little bit. And a lot of times when I'm done playing for like a half an hour, I'll look and my saddles are splayed out a little because I'm fairly aggressive on my right hand. So I like a bridge that does not allow lateral movement like that. So I decided I could have gone this route. Now this is the hipshot kick-ass bridge, which is based on the old Leo Kwan badass bridge. And I have to say that personally, I just think that is like one of the corniest bits of marketing ever. This whole, oh yeah, kick-ass, you know, I'm embarrassed to say it, so they could have done better. But anyway, that aside, this is a really nice bridge, and it's hyper adjustable. It does not allow lateral movement because it fits in a groove. The saddles, there's some replaceable saddles here, and they are adjustable left to right. And that honestly gives you almost a little bit more flexibility than I want. A Fender bass, you know what, a standard string spacing. I never want to move my string spacing on a Fender. I bought this bridge for a bass I'm building right now, and hopefully I'll get somewhere with it at some point here, and we can get this bridge on the body. But this is not what I bought for this bass. I did get a Fender high mass bridge, and it has nothing to do with the extra mass. The extra mass I'm not anticipating giving me any more sustain. I just want a nice contact point on top of the saddle, and the saddles fit in the groove so they can't move left to right. So I can crank away as hard as I want on those low strings or picking, and I'm not going to splay out these saddles. So So that's why I'm changing it. And I like it's a nice smooth flat finish. The screws are sunk in really nice. I'm not going to cut my hands up on it. I've had that happen on a lot of Fender type bridges. So I'm going to slap this thing on. I'm not doing a before video because obviously the bridge is already off. And if you want to hear the bass with the original stock bridge, you can go check out the video of the Player Series versus Vintera kind of comparison video. So I will play a little bit once I get this bridge on, just so you can hear, and I'll give you my honest impression if I think I've gained anything from it or not. But I don't anticipate a big difference in tone, and I'm just hoping that maybe my low string's a little punchier. This bridge too, it's available with either brass or zinc saddles. I got zinc because it's cheaper, and it's kind of funny. Brass is a perfectly acceptable material for almost all hardware for basses, but brass is soft. A lot of people don't really think of it that way. They don't realize that the brass is not a hard metal. That's why it's used for nuts a lot of times, just because you can file it with wood tools. So back in the 80s and early 90s when I started playing, that was always this high top end thing, was like a brass nut or whatever. People thought it increased sustain, these big heavy brass bridges. And honestly, brass is a soft metal. It's going to absorb some of those vibrations. It's still acceptable, because that's the thing about all of this, is that we're talking about such small increments that if you're increasing or decreasing your sustain with different materials, it's probably not very significant in a regular playing situation. It's probably measurable by letting one note ring out for an unrealistically long whole note that you'd never use in a song, because it goes on and on and on. I've never had, even amongst cheap basses, sustain be a problem unless something is not built correctly, if something is loose. That's where you lose vibration. So again, I don't think this extra mass is going to do anything but make my guitar a few ounces heavier. Another reason that I don't buy into extra mass at the bridge mattering is because once you cross the saddle, everything after that doesn't matter. People talk about string through the body being like it transfers more vibration to the body. That would not increase your sustain. The more vibration being transferred away from that string, that is a loss of vibration. So I don't believe string through the body makes any impact on sustain, at least not from a positive standpoint. And I've used plenty of them that way that there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't lose any sustain. I stopped using string through body though on every bass that's ever been available to me to do it, because I've, in 30 years plus of playing and well over 1,000 strings, the only strings I've ever broken have been going through the body. It puts a really hard bend on that string going through, and the big fat B and E strings don't like that. That's why I don't think it's a problem for guitars. They're not so thick that they want to break under their own tension. But every bass string I've ever broken has been right at the bridge going through the body. And somebody said to me, well, it's because you probably had a burr on your saddle. Well, the thing is, you're still crossing that same saddle when you're going through the back of the bridge. So I never broke a string on either of those basses doing it through the back of the bridge. So I never bother going through the body. I don't make it possible on the basses I build. I don't drill through. I don't think it's necessary. The string just needs to be anchored. I don't think it matters if that string goes through and then the back of the bridge and it's attached to something on the wall 20 feet away. That's not going to change anything. As long as the tension from this point to the nut is the same, you will get your note. And as for nut materials, that's another thing people say will increase sustain. That only affects your open note. When you're fretting a note, everything behind your fret does not matter. So that nut does not increase your sustain when you're fretting a note. So that's maybe more significant on a guitar because you're playing open chords where some notes are fretted and some are open, and you don't want a difference in sustain. It's one of the reasons some people will do the 0 fret thing instead of a nut. But I'm not saying nut material doesn't matter. I just think it needs to be a good hard material. And when I make them myself, I do it out of bone because it's a natural material. It's cheap and easy to acquire and easy to work, but it stinks. So anyway, any other things I didn't touch on that? No, I don't think so. Oh, one more reason that I don't think mass matters is on some of the best basses in the world, you're going to find a high mass bridge, and then you're going to find lightweight, ultra lightweight hipshot tuners on them. And I think if the weight of the anchor point mattered, you would want a heavy tuning key, or else you're losing sustain there. And I don't think that's ever the case. I think that you could have an ultra lightweight bridge as long as it was stiff and hard enough, and it would not change your sustain. So I'm going to put this on, and I'm not expecting the extra mass or anything to help my bass. I don't expect a change in the tone. I expect, hopefully, that just my lowest string is a little punchier, because I feel like when that string is sitting on top of these ridges, it's touching at 2 points. It's touching on the very, very top edge of two of these threads. And I just can't see that you're getting a good contact, and, you know, it just feels like a place that I could be losing some vibration. And again, when I get cranking on this thing, I always seem to be moving my bridge saddles apart. So we're going to see if we can correct that with this bridge. It was not a significant increase in price over almost any other bridge. If I could have got another one, I could have got another one like this with regular saddles for like 20 some bucks, 30 some bucks for something just a little better, and I paid like 40 bucks for that. And it gives me all the adjustments I could want, and it's a direct replacement, same screw holes, same position, just bolt it on, restring it up, and we'll see how it sounds once I do that. But please, if you are of the mind that high mass bridges are worth the money strictly for adding sustain or better tone or whatever, I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade. I just don't believe that. I've used every kind of bridge on the market and every kind of configuration, and I've upgraded a million of them, and I've never noticed a difference in a whole lot of anything other than usability. It's how adjustable do you want? How easy do you want? You know, cheap bridges strip out these little screws really easy, things like that. There's plenty of reasons to put a nice bridge on your bass, but unless you're correcting a problem, it's usually not real necessary. So anyway, I'm going to slap this thing on this nice seafoam green Vintera, and we'll string it back up and play it a little bit and see what it sounds like. We're back. So as you can see, bridge is on, set up nice, intonation's all good, action's nice and low. Feels like I expected, which is pretty much about how it did before. There's no night and day difference. The bottom string maybe feels a little better, but the best thing about it is that these bridge saddles aren't going to move on me, so I can... I don't think it changed the tone really. I don't think it did a whole lot to increase sustain. I mean, maybe it did, but it's not going to be a huge difference. So was it worthwhile? Well, I think yes, because it's easier to set up. It's nice and smooth across the top. I'm not going to beat up my hands if I'm picking down here, which happens to me sometimes. So I'm happy with it. It does the job it's supposed to do. And again, please take everything I said about what I call sustained myths with a grain of salt. I could totally be wrong, just sharing what I think. And I'm not new to this. I've been playing for well over 30 years. I've been tinkering with basses just as long, and I've been building for a couple of years now from scratch. And so I have a semi-educated opinion on the matter, but I completely reserve the right to be wrong. And so if you put a new high mass bridge on your bass and now you think it sustains twice as long, that's great. I'm not going to try to talk you out of that. So anyway, that's about all I have to say about this. It's been a nice, easy little upgrade, and I don't think I'm going to change anything else about this bass. I think I like the pickup and I like everything else about it. So I'm going to just play it from here on out. So thanks for checking out my Fender Vintera with the new and improved, upgraded high mass bridge that I just spent a bunch of time explaining why you don't need a high mass bridge, but that's me. I'm a big old hypocrite. So thanks for watching as always, and hopefully I'll have another one put together here before too long. Thanks a lot.